Welcome to Critical Aspects of Law Enforcement, a podcast where we dive into the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being of the law enforcement officer.
Minor injury accident to the 2700 block of 156th Avenue Northeast.
All right, welcome back to Critical Aspects of Law Enforcement. I'm your host, Vernon Phillips, and today we are joined with Rick. Rick is a law enforcement officer, but he's also the founder and CEO of Blue Badge Coffee Company. So, Rick, I'm just going to give it over to you. You can jump in. You can just tell us about yourself, a little bit about your history, your background, your hobbies, and all that.
Awesome. Cool. So I've been in law enforcement since 2017. I've been with the city of Pacifica, PD, since 2019. And I actually was born and raised and live in Pacifica currently. So I'm fully encompassed in my community here. Let's see. I've wanted to be a cop for a long time, but I kind of graduated from college, business school in Atherton over here on the peninsula, and kind of went into the business world. And so I did business for a long time, worked for Wells Fargo, worked for Firestone Brewery down on the coast down here, the Central Valley, Central Coast, and then ran my own business for like the last 10 years or before I was a cop. I ran a U-Haul store and a moving supply store in San Francisco. And then I got married, had kids, and decided that I wanted to have, retirement and a steady income and future for my kids. So I finally got into law enforcement, but I got in at 37 years old. So I went into the academy against these up against these 21, 22, 23-year-olds. There's a couple older guys. There's a 41-year-old in there, but I finished mid academy, academically and physically, which was good for me. I was 37 years old battling those young guys and did pretty well. But worked for Daly City for a second and then ended up with Pacifica, which was a blessing. I love working in my hometown. I'm obviously invested in the community here, being born and raised here. So the connection here is awesome. Thought it'd be weird, arresting people that I knew growing up and stuff like that. But since I started older in the profession, I didn't really have a problem with it. And just the maturity and stuff that I have as an older cop didn't really hinder my job at all. So what else? I have a wife of 11 years. We just hit 11 years married.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. So almost 7 of it's been in law enforcement. So it's been a majority of it in law enforcement.
Congratulations again on that.
Yeah. Two kids, 7 and 8 years old. So my kids have known me as a cop pretty much. And what else? My mom's still alive. She's doing well. She's great. She's my support. My dad passed away right before I got hired, so that sucked. And then I have 2 sisters and a brother. My brother's a firefighter in Pacifica. So, and then one of my sisters, my older sister, she's a captain in Hayward, just another city here in the Bay Area. And then I have uncles that are in the fire service. So I had a bunch of guys in the fire service. I was supposed to go in the fire service, but I decided to go business and then become a cop. So that was my path. But yeah,
you actually wanted to work for a living?
I actually wanted to work for a living. Yeah, I wanted to put my degree to work, my $100,000 degree to work. But
yeah,
in the end, I ended up doing the community service like the rest of my family. So
yeah,
pretty proud of that.
Awesome. Yeah, man. Well, I appreciate everything you do and the fact that, you're working there in your hometown. I think that's pretty cool. I think it probably gets to the point now where you're like, you're older, you're more mature, and you talk about arresting people, you're probably like, well, by this time in your life, you should know better, right?
Exactly.
You should have gotten out of all of that stuff. And so if I'm arresting you, it's your own dang fault. So,
Exactly.
Awesome. So, I mean, obviously, so you got a lot of things going on. I mean, you're doing the whole coffee company thing, your law enforcement, wife, kids, family. So, with all that in mind, how do you maintain just your wellness? How do you maintain a healthy lifestyle, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually? How do you, with all that going on, how do you keep yourself in check?
So my dad had me in the gym at like 14 years old. So I was in the gym. I've played sports my whole life. So physically, that was kind of what I did. Now, after my dad died and I, went through different challenges at work and family and stuff, I kind of fell off and I didn't do anything. And still athletic and still would go out and play adult sports and stuff like that, but just skipped out on the gym. But recently I got back into working out and I don't know if you heard of the program 75 Hard.
I have not, no.
It's a cool mental strength program where you work out twice a day, drink a gallon of water, read 10 pages in a book, take a photograph of yourself, and follow a diet for 75 days straight. And it really transforms you mentally and physically. It's a really cool program.
What was that called again?
I urge your followers to look it up. It's 75 Hard. It's by a guy named Andy Frisella. He doesn't, charge you anything for it. He puts all the information out there for you to go and do it and change your life. And for me, that was kind of like the beginning of actually my whole current story. But to get back to your question, the mental, the physical, like I try to, I'm really good at, as an older cop, separating the work with the home. And I keep my work at work, and when I'm home, like I'm doing my family thing, and I try to take as much family time as my department lets me. I coach, I do stuff with my kids. We're out, going on walks, going on bike rides, traveling, doing stuff like that. So mentally, that's what I do. I do focus on my family, and then physically, like I just said, just trying to get as much as I can in, coaching basketball, coaching soccer, coaching baseball, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and all that's important, especially when you were talking about, law enforcement is, especially doing the coaching thing and is finding something else outside of the career, right?
Mm-hmm.
The profession that you can kind of invest into, right? That you can put purpose in because, we might talk about this a little bit later, but I mean, you kind of brought it up, so we'll go ahead and jump on it now. But that's one of the biggest things is when somebody leaves the law enforcement profession, whether they retire or whatever it is, if they put all of their effort into the career and now their career is no longer there, right? They kind of lose this sense of purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's really important to, to find other things that you enjoy. So like coaching, being a mentor, just investing in other things. So, and it's no surprise that it's doing something like coaching, because if you got into public service, right, you're wanting to serve other people and you're wanting to mentor other people and kind of bring people along. So, that always kind of goes hand in hand, and especially making use of family time. That is absolutely vital. You have to carve out time to plug your family in and to make sure that you are giving them the attention and, just the time that they deserve and it's warranted for them. I'm sure you've seen it. I've seen it where 100% goes into the profession, right? 100% goes into your career. And that's where you start to see, marriages fall apart. You start to see, you go and retire and then your kids want nothing to do with you because, now you want to be in my life. So,
no.
And that is, so to you, to hear you say that kind of stuff is great to hear. It's encouraging to hear. And man, I just encourage you to keep doing that. Keep absolutely investing that time in your family and your marriage and all of that, because that's just all good stuff.
It is. It's important because I see it every day. I see the guys that I mean, and I there's going to be guys that do both. There's going to be the guys that put in the overtime and work and work and work and work, and then the guys that do their share of overtime but want to be with their families. And I get it, but like I don't know, for me personally, and at my age, with my kids' age, like I want my family time. I do this. It's a job. I love the guys that I work with as brothers and sisters, but it's a job. that I'm there half of my life of, but it's a job, and then I have my family. That's number one.
Yeah. And you said something that I want to kind of just get pick your brain on. So you said that you try and really hard to leave work at work, right?
Mhm.
And just when you're home, you're home. So what is it that you do that helps you achieve that? Because with a lot of people, it doesn't really work that way, right? We kind of try to put them in separate categories, but they very much bleed into each other at times, right? Where you kind of bring work home and you bring, home to work. And so what do you do actively to kind of help keep those two areas separated?
I think the most important thing is being aware, like, we know that our job's going to affect us. It's going to
Oh
affect
yeah,
us.
absolutely. Yep.
It affects us no matter what. But if you're aware of, you see something crazy for the day, or a dead body, or I arrested someone I know, or an overdose or whatever, leave that at work. That's part of our job. Like, that's what we signed up for. And then be aware of it. Don't just block out the feelings. I mean, I have feelings at work. When I see stuff, I almost get emotional sometimes. I'm just that kind of guy. When I come home, it's like I'm giving my attention and my love to my kids and my family. They deserve it. So you have to just be aware of that. And if something is going on, and you can be aware of something going on in your mind or something, then get help for it, because that's important too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you said that. I mean, because that's a lot of times, you said also just be aware of, not taking that home, but also just if something bothers you, right, talk about it. Because a lot of times what we want to do is, right, we want to numb those negative emotions, those negative feelings surrounding whatever it could be, a particular call, like you're saying, like it's a dead body, or you arrest somebody, but here's the thing: when we numb, right, when we try to numb negative feelings, you can't distinguish between negative feelings and positive feelings, right? You
Mm-hmm.
can't numb one without numbing both. And
Part,
so
part
that's
of part of it for me too is, sorry to interrupt you,
no, you're good.
is I have a wife that jumped into the profession with me, both feet, and so she read the being married to a police officer books, and she gets it, and she continues to educate herself on my job, and like and the stuff that I experienced, and so she'll play off of some of my emotions sometimes and be like, okay, what's going on, and we'll talk about some stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not anything too serious, but it's good that she could recognize that, and we can have conversations and talk it out. Or if she knows that I need a couple minutes of couch time when I get home and not to bother me, then she'll, let me do that. So, having a significant other or a spouse that's also aware is key too.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that. So if she's aware that you need some couch time, or you just need to, hey, look, I'm coming home. It's been a rough day. I just need 10 minutes. I just need 15 minutes just to kind of wrap my head around today, kind of decompress a little bit, and then fully engage with family and family activities. So, but that's awesome that your wife's also invested too, and that she's aware and she knows what kind of just a little bit of ins and outs of the profession. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, it's great.
So that's awesome.
Yeah.
So as we kind of start talking about the profession, right, and how much stuff you see and how it impacts you, as you kind of look back over the last 7 years that you've been in law enforcement, and
Mhm.
I believe that's what you said. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? You said the last 7 years.
Yeah.
So when you look back, like what has been one of the most significant calls that's like really kind of it settled on you, that they kind of made you step back and are like, oh man.
So just to preface that, like I'm big into community policing, relationship building, uh, peer support with my peers, but helping the community, being there with the kids at the high schools. We don't have an SRO, but like I do as much as I can with the kids to show them that like we're good people. We're not just bad people that come and arrest.
Mm-hmm.
We come and help. We interact. So I do a lot of that kind of stuff. And so I have a lot of like those kind of calls that touched me. But there's this one that I was thinking about. It was we got a report of a missing person. This is a couple years ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And it was like a girl about my age. She was like 45, something like that. I think she grew up around town too. So I didn't know her, but I heard of her name. Anyway, she was missing, and our guys were looking for her the night before. We couldn't find her. So the next day we get in there, me and one of my corporals at the time, he's a sergeant now, and we got tasked to go and look where her phone ping lost up on this ridge in Pacifica. And so we're walking, get our hiking boots on, and we're going and walking up this ridge and stuff, and we don't see anything. We're looking over like the cliff. We live on the coast, so we're looking over the cliffs like by the water just in case, because she was suicidal. She'd sent some text messages that were pretty sad. So we're looking, we don't find anything. Then on our way back down the hill, after looking all along the coast side there, we come down and I see like a backpack, a Bible, some clothing. I look down a little bit of the hill here, and I see like a water bottle. We see her cell phone sitting there too, by the way. And so I'm like, oh my God, this is it. So we couldn't find her though. So my corporal at the time, he walks, I think he's talking to our dispatch and like our sergeant, our watch commander, and he's staying up on the top. I climbed down. So there was a cliff on the ocean side and a cliff on the other side into an old rock quarry that we have in Pacifica. So I climb all the way down there, and I get down there and I see her down there, obviously deceased. But it was just terrible, because you could see this stuck in my head that she fell down this ravine. I don't know if this is too much detail for your audience, but she fell down this ravine.
No, go ahead, man. Don't worry about it.
She survived the fall, but she had taken, after we had investigated, she had taken pills and drank. That water bottle was full of vodka. So you know how you make a snow angel in the snow?
Yeah.
She was struggling down there all night in the cold rainy, cold weather. She had taken off her jacket somehow, and she was kicking and moving her arms around so much that she made like an angel in the mud down there. So it was pretty brutal. And then like her family was looking for her, walking the trails too, because they knew that's where she had last said she was. And I had found her, and then we had to rope off the scene, and they're kind of walking, trying like, have you found her? And we're like, we couldn't really tell them much. So we had to like kind of shoo them away, even though she was 50 feet away from them in a freaking on the ground down there. It was pretty sad.
Yeah.
So that's one that I remember, and it's because like like I said, I'm really invested in the peer support, the emotional, like the critical incidents, the helping people with mental illness, that kind of stuff. That's kind of like my thing.
So with that, what did you do? And I appreciate you sharing that, because it's always one of those questions where you're kind of, you get a mixed response, right? Where some people are like, man, I hate that question. And some people are like, yeah, you know what? Let's talk about it. Like, I'm more than willing to share. But kind of like for our audience here, I mean, it's to encourage other people, like, man, if there's something that you're not sharing, right, that's causing, disruption in your life because you're not willing to talk about it, you're not willing to share it. Like, obviously, all of these things that we deal with in the law enforcement profession, right? No matter where you serve in that profession, right? The things that you see, the critical and traumatic events, like they're going to impact you some way or another, right? So either you can talk about it and you can address them and you can work through that stuff, or you can take it and you can push it down until it manifests into something else later on down the road, because it will eventually come out. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad you brought that up. So what did you do to kind of help yourself process that incident?
Writing the report and talking to the significant other and the child, who was like, I think 18 or 19, the lady's son. Just taking it all in, try to help them as much as possible. And I don't know, just learn from it. Like, man, I try to tell people like from that incident, like if you are going through something, talk to somebody, call
Yeah.
us, call your family, call your friends. People want to help you. And obviously like it's a split decision that these people make. But you can't help but think, God, did she regret it when she was freaking rolling down the cliff and she's on the bottom, like struggling to survive?
Yeah.
And so that's it. I mean, like I said, I take like seeing of the dead bodies and that kind of thing pretty well. I try not to let it phase me as bad. I mean, obviously it's terrible to see right when it happens, but
Yeah.
time goes on, you kind of process it, and I try to learn from it and try to teach or teach it to other people, or just use it in other incidents with 5150s, or people who are kids who are running away, stuff like that. I'm like, I try to teach them a lesson from what
Yeah.
I've learned. So
Well, and you also said, I mean, you said that you're a big fan of, debriefings and peer support and talking about stuff. So a lot of that goes a long way. So just taking the time to step back and be like, man, that freaking sucked. Because it doesn't matter who you are. I mean, you could be, 30 years into the career and you may put on the facade, right? That, oh, this doesn't bother me. I'm hardened. And you may be hardened to a degree, but somewhere deep down inside, you're still looking at a situation like that, and you're like, man, this freaking sucks, right?
totally.
Another body, another person taking their life, another parent beating their kid, another, husband beating his wife. Just you're like, this man, this just sucks. So, but
But like you
here,
said, it's talking to your peers about it too. Like
yeah,
I'm not scared to show my feelings or talk to my corporal that was with me or the sergeant like after and go, man, that fucking sucked. Like, man, she was down there. She made a mud angel. She was struggling. Seeing that was terrible. Like, I'll talk to people about that. I don't care.
yeah, and that's a big thing, and that's a huge thing because, I mean, you probably see it, and I see it all the time where people are just like, no, I'm good, I'm fine, and
Mm-hmm.
they just go on and they just take it and they push it down, and they push it down and they push it down, but eventually, all that's going to come to the surface at some point or another in your life. So I'm glad to hear you say that. I'm glad to know that you're kind of one of those guys that are out there, kind of pushing that, kind of one of the champions on like, hey, look, we need to talk about the stuff that we see,
Yeah,
because if we don't, it's only going to affect us, and if we don't deal with it, man, it's going to come back.
exactly.
So, but I appreciate you sharing that. So as you look back over the last several years, what are three of the most significant things that you've learned in the law enforcement profession?
I grouped this in a few different things. So, first thing I said was like empathy and patience. So, like you said, people can get hardened by this career, jaded, pissed off about a bunch of shit. Um, I've learned to realize that people still piss me off and people still do dumb shit, but to have empathy for people who are going through something. I mean, running through a stop sign, doing whatever, traffic violations, or even to the point where they're, you know, spanking their kid and they get CPS called on, whatever it is, like trying to figure out the whole situation before you start
Yeah.
judging people and being hard about it. And also having patience with people who are involved in different situations who can't explain the certain thing right away or whatever. So that's one, is empathy and patience. Let's see, what else did I say here? I said, I grew up here in Pacifica my whole life. I went away for college and stuff, but when I became a cop here, I had no clue the shit that went on in Pacifica. I grew up with a Marine Corps dad. I played sports my whole life. I wasn't involved in shit. I didn't drink until I was in college. Um, but and when I got to college, I made up for it. But that's different. Those are different stories for a different time. But I had no clue what was going on in Pacifica. So what I learned is that, like, as a cop, being in the trenches, man, you see some crazy stuff, and you realize what's really going on in these towns. You know, people in the community, they don't get it. Oh, they're like, oh, Pacifica's a small town, it's quiet, right? Like, you're not busy. You know, what do you get? Like a couple Autobergs and a couple DVs and this and that. I'm like, you have no clue. This place is full of fentanyl and meth. Like,
Yeah.
crazy. So that's one thing. And then the last thing I put is that this profession has a lot of stuff that's like satisfying and rewarding. You know, helping people wise, teaching people lessons, saving people's lives, bringing bad people to jail. But there's also a lot that can be like detrimental and damaging to your family and your friends and your relationships outside of work. So that's not something that they talk about too much in the academy.
Yeah. So with that, knowing that the job is very demanding, right? Knowing that you're going to see some of the worst of humanity, right? But you also get to see some of the best of humanity too, right? So I don't want to just say that, when you get into law enforcement, you only see the crap. Because you do. I mean, you see a whole bunch of crap, but there's also, you see some of the good too.
Mm-hmm.
But just knowing the profession, knowing the things that you're going to get involved in, knowing the things you're going to see, do you think that we prepare people coming into the career well enough? Do you think we do a good enough job kind of setting them up for success when they first are starting out?
I mean, you learn a lot in the academy. I'm sure people like look into the profession before they get into it. But some of the realities that you see once you get into your individual department too, the demand of the job, the hours, the different shifts, the staffing issues, especially nowadays. And even to the point where like I got into the job to help people and this and that, and I'm in my hometown and all that, but to know the reality of like, there's no quotas, but people are looking at your stats. So all these different things, like, when you're in the academy, you're learning a DV call, a bird call, this or that, CPS call. You're doing all these things, and you're learning how to shoot, and you're, getting physically in shape, and you're learning the whole LDs and all your different chapters. But some of that stuff, you get it when you finally get to your own, specific department. So, I think maybe they could talk about it a little bit more, but I mean, it's really based on your department, and your different issues that you have when you start working somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, obviously in the academies you learn a lot of the fundamentals, right? A lot of the basics, but they prepare you the best they can for a lot of the situations you're going to encounter. But kind of like you're saying, like it's also going to be really specific to kind of where you end up and what department or agency you end up with, because you could end up in some podunk town in the middle of nowhere, and there's the total police department's got 5 people.
Mm-hmm.
And and the biggest thing you might ever have to work is somebody ran over somebody's cat or something stupid like that. Or you can end up in a big city. I mean, you end up going to like NYPD or LAPD, and it's like just freaking call after call after call, and it's just one thing after another. So yeah, I would agree that definitely, I think individual departments need to kind of showcase based off of where they're at as far as their level of involvement. But I think that I think it's gotten better in the academies, but I think just kind of teaching more on that mental and emotional impact that it does have, kind of just giving that like, hey, look, this is the job, this is the things you're going to see, this how it's going to affect you. Like, if you don't take care of yourself, like, man, in the first 5 years, you are going to be a different person. Like, even with taking care of yourself, statistically, you're still going to be a different person, right? I mean, 5 years from when you first start out, you're not going to be the same person that when you first hit the street. That's absolutely for sure.
Yeah.
So based off of that, what is some advice that you'd give to some of the new, the new recruits getting into the profession? Some of the people like looking, hey, I want to get into law enforcement. What is some advice that you'd give them?
So, yeah, I mean, the younger you start, the better. Because nowadays with the way retirements are and stuff, like for us, we're earning 2.7 years every year, and it's like, I don't know how it's going to be when these new guys are starting 2.5, 2. I don't know. So starting young and getting in and learning is probably good. But learning your cities, like wherever you're looking at going, kind of looking at the departments, seeing the staffing issues, stuff like that I didn't look at. Which all around the country right now, it's kind of brutal. There's staffing issues pretty much everywhere that I see. But look into that kind of stuff. Look, kind of plan out your career. What do you want to do? Like in my department, if I wanted to go be a canine or something like that, I mean, we just had one retire and pass away, and then we did hire another canine, but that's like once every 7 or 8 years. So like, do you want to be a motor? Because we only have one motor, and that's not probably going to ever happen here in Pacifica. Do you want to be a canine? Maybe in a few years you could, but like, so there's departments that have those kind of things. So plan out your career, figure out where you go, what's best for your family if you have that. If it's just you at that point, like, go do what you want to do and have fun. Go to a place that's going to be fun, flexible, whatever your morals and stuff are. Like when I came to Pacifica, the guys, I said, hey, like I coach baseball, I coach whatever, soccer and stuff. My kids go to school here, and they go, you know what? Perfect. If you never need to pick up your kids, boom, you can go do that. You can go do that. In reality, now being short staffed, it's not really real.
Yeah.
But that's one of the things that I do like about working in my hometown is I'm close to my kids. If there's ever anything that happens at the school, I'm freaking there, or at practice or something like that. Like even on duty, I am there within 2 minutes. So, that's what I would say. Just dig into your different departments, start early, and really, really know if you're going to pick this career, if you're going to love doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially the whole thing about starting early, because I mean, you get somebody who starts off at 21, 22, and and they put in 25 years. They're looking at retirement at kind of where we're at right now at our age, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't know kind of where you're at, but I look at myself and I'm like, man, I'm probably not going to retire for another 20 years. I don't know.
I mean, I look at myself and I go, I don't know if I could do that physically, for the family. Like I'm 43 right now. I don't know how many more years I can go past 50. And so like, I started at 37. That only puts me at 13 years. It drops down. I'm at 2.7% for 13 years. That's like 20, 30% of my salary. So it sucks because if you do want to hit those higher numbers in retirement and get a good pension, like you're going to have to work till you're 60, 65, 70 years old. Who the hell wants to do that?
Well,
because we all know the statistics about how long cops live after retirement. I mean, they told us that in the academy, and it's not good. So like staying healthy, but that brings us back to all this stuff: staying healthy, mentally fit, physically fit, and kind of planning out your career and your life, because it is just a career. Yep. And you have your life, and so you got to see what's important.
Yeah, I mean, the average lifespan is, I want to say, somewhere right around 59 years of age, compared to, the average citizen, which I think is right around 78, 79. So, you look at that, but also that's very conducive to the profession, right, to the environment.
Yeah.
So, so with that, so tell us a little bit about the coffee company. Tell us a little bit about Blue Badge Coffee Company and kind of how that came about, and the idea behind that, and the purpose of that, and what your mission is and what your goal is with the coffee company.
Yeah, for sure. So it all kind of works back into the beginning here. I was doing 75 hard. Um, and I was also going to a bunch of peer support stuff for the police department. I was going to peer support classes. I got nominated as our peer support officer by my peers, which is pretty nice. So someone that they thought they could talk to at work.
Yeah.
Um, at the same time, my kids are saying certain things about, maybe not being shot at work, or if I wasn't coming home on time, if I was being held over, working overtime, whatever it was. My daughter would wake up in the middle of the night and be like, FaceTime daddy, we need to make sure he's okay. And it's just kind of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I know that kind of stuff could be talked about and worked out with your kids, but
But they're getting to that age, right? They're getting to that age where
yeah,
they're really starting to realize what you really do for a career,
exactly.
what your job really entails. I mean, when they're younger, it's all cool, dad, mom, they work for a police department, they work for a sheriff's office, they do this, but when they start really realizing like, oh man, this is what they do. So yeah, that's a big thing, man.
Totally. So that was going on, and I'm like, I need to have some type of backup plan here, So I was talking to people at work during coffee. We'd go out to coffee and we talk about different things and life goals and future profession goals and that kind of thing. And I'm like, it's right in front of my face. I'm doing peer support. I love coffee. I'm drinking coffee with all these guys. And so I'm like, this is a cool thing for me to do. So I started researching and I looked up, different police coffee companies around the country. And I saw that there was like different ones that benefited fallen officers or families of fallen officers and stuff like that. And there's regional ones also that are all over the country, smaller regional ones. But the big ones like had, either sold to police specifically, and that was their clientele, or they had a benefit to like a fallen officer or something like that. But no one was doing anything for the officer that was active, the active duty police officer that needed help. No one was like pushing for that. And I'm in the peer support thing, and I'm doing physical wellness and doing all this stuff. I'm going through this program where I'm mentally strong, I'm confident, and I'm like, I could do this. I'm going to do this business. So one morning, I told my wife, I just made a logo with my cousin, and I go, I'm gonna go Instagram official, see what happens. And so I put the logo out on Instagram, put coming soon on the bottom, and I got all this support. Boom, everyone just, where can I support you? How can I help you? Blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm just starting. It says coming soon. Hold on one second. So then I started just getting on the horse and doing research and partnering, finding partners. I found a roaster in San Francisco. That was a blessing. She was the only one who really answered my call. And we met up. She dedicated a whole day to showing me what she does and her product, and really sold me. And I sold her. And I'm like, listen, I'm not just trying to be a little boutique-y, coffee guy who's trying to sell like 100 pounds a month and just kind of have this thing. I'm trying to be like one of the biggest coffee companies in the country, like in the next 10 years. So you going to jump on board and ride this wave with me or what? And she's like, oh, I'm down. So she jumped on board, and then I just started. I hired a guy to build my website. I went down to Coffee Fest down in Anaheim and spent a couple grand down there learning coffee and doing all that kind of stuff, and started meeting peer support people and this and that, and it just all started coming together. It's pretty cool.
All right. So if somebody wants to support, somebody wants to buy coffee, how do they do that? How does that work?
Yeah. So right now I'm direct to consumer, which for me, as far as, because what I'm doing is, so I didn't even finish. So
Sorry.
my niche is basically, I talked about how the other ones weren't doing anything for peer support. So I am. So a portion of all my sales, whether it be coffee or merch, is going towards peer support and wellness for police officers. And by that, I don't mean like I'm not picking a certain foundation or this and that. I'm slowly making my sales, collecting money, putting a portion of it away. And what I eventually want to do is I want to have like a fund to where agencies can contact me. They know they can like ask for a grant basically if they go through an OIS or if they're going through some stuff with their police officers, or their cops are going through some family issues or suicidal thoughts or whatever it may be. They can call me and I can go, here's $5,000 or $10,000 here. Let's help your police department. Let's help them with your peer support program. Let's get some wellness stuff going on in your police department. Let's do this. Let's talk to some therapists. Let's do that. Let's bring it all together. So
that's awesome.
My goal in the first 3 years is to donate $1 million to agencies around the country once I get out here nationwide, around the country, to help with their officers' peer support and wellness programs.
Dude, that's awesome. That's awesome.
So you can buy my product. We're direct to consumer. I felt like that was the best way for me to go to maximize profits, be able to donate as much as possible to these agencies and programs, rather than buying shelf space in grocery stores and stuff. As I'm growing organically on Instagram and organically through word of mouth, through family and friends and podcasts and stuff like that, and just getting my name and my product out there and my cause. And so, it's direct to consumer. It's bluebadgecoffee.com. You go on there, you see my coffee, my merch. And like I said, I'm slowly adding more coffee, adding more merch, and just trying to get my logo and my brand out there as we speak.
Okay. And so on Instagram, how can they reach you on Instagram? What's that? And I'll put all this in the show notes too, so they can just click and go to it. But if they want to find you on Instagram, what do they go to?
So on Instagram, it's Blue Badge Coffee Company. At Blue Badge Coffee Company. And then on the website, it's just bluebadgecoffee.com.
Okay. And so what types of different coffee do you offer right now? Like, you just offer just a handful, or is there a couple different?
Yeah. So right now I offer a light roast, a medium roast, a dark roast, and then I did a specialty blend. It's a proprietary blend that I made. I did a tasting with some close friends when I was first starting. Selected a bunch of different variations of blends that I thought might taste good. We tasted them at my house, and we came up with one that they gave me all these tasting notes and stuff. It was pretty cool. And they selected one that they liked. And then I went on Instagram and I kind of reached out to my followers and said, what name should I do? And I kind of threw a few names out there on a survey, and the Rookie was the name that people liked. So my first blend is called the Rookie, and it's a good little blend. Ethiopia, Guatemala, and Italian roast. And then I have a Costa Rica right now, which is my light roast. I have a Mexico bean, which is my medium roast, and then I have a what I call France. It's the name of the coffee. It's a French roast. So those are my 4 that I have right now: light, medium, dark, and then the specialty blend.
Okay. And do your light, medium, and dark, do they have any specific names, or is that just pretty much what it is? Just like a
so actually, it's funny that you say that. So I also went online on Instagram and kind of talked about what should I name my light, medium, and dark roast. So my light roasts are in a category called day shift. My medium roasts are in a category called swing shift, and my dark roast is called graveyard. So
okay.
So I kind of did that with all police profession, obviously. But yeah, no, my Costa Rica, the Costa Rica bean that I have is called Costa Rica, and that's my light roast.
Okay.
The Mexican bean that I got is called Mexico, and that's my medium roast, and then the French roast is my dark.
Okay.
And they're all on there right now. I will be releasing 4 more soon here within the next couple weeks, right in time for the holidays and stuff. So we'll have 8 coffees out there, which would be nice to choose from.
Okay.
So.
And what's kind of the going price right now if somebody wants to buy your coffee? I mean, they can jump online, they can see, but just kind of give them a quick little overview.
Yeah, for sure. So I was kind of what I'm doing is I'm going with organic beans, fair trade, chemical free, premium stuff. So I'm not priced on the lower end, but I'm not priced on the super high end either. You can find coffee for $6.99 a pound, or you can find coffee for nowadays with Kona beans, you could find it for like $80 a pound.
Yeah.
Majority of them are like between $6.99 and like $25. Since I'm a premium brand with the organic, the fair trade, the no chemicals, all that kind of stuff, I'm right at $20. So I priced myself at $20 a pound.
Okay.
And so that's all my coffees together. I kind of averaged out the cost between all the different beans and just did a flat $20 per pound for my beans.
But it's coffee, like you said, it's coffee with a purpose, right?
And that's another thing is it's coffee with a purpose. So you're getting a premium brand coffee, but you're also knowing that a portion of every single bag that you buy is going to a pretty good cause, especially if you support police and their families. Peer support and wellness, whether it be, like I said, mental or physical, getting out there and getting these guys mentally and physically fit and keeping them that way is super important, not just for us and our families, but for our communities. Like having a well-rounded, mentally fit and physically fit cop on the streets is good for our communities, right? So,
oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
it's good for everybody. If you can't get behind that, man, I don't know what to tell you.
Then we can say all kinds of things, but we'll
Yeah.
we'll refrain, right?
Yeah.
I haven't got canceled yet, so let's not get there.
Yeah.
No, man, I appreciate it. It sounds awesome what you're doing, and I'm gonna have to jump on there and kind of get some. I love coffee myself, so I'm definitely gonna pick up some of your coffee. And as far as your merch, what do you guys got? T-shirts, hats, things like that?
Yeah, so I just got these shirts. I'm about to put them on my website today or tomorrow. I do have hats on there. I don't know if you guys. So I did the shirts through Bella and Canvas, and also through American Apparel, another company that's America First. My hats are branded Bills. I don't know if you've heard of them. They do a lot of the American flag hats and stuff. So I went through them for the hats, and I actually just ordered beanies for the winter. I have these tumblers, 16, 12, and 12-ounce tumblers. They're through a company called Welly out of Pennsylvania, and super hard to find a made in America tumbler these days. I don't know if you know, but like China has all the technology for these type of tumblers. So even Yeti, the famous Yeti that we all love for our coolers, their tumblers are made in China. So this company, right now they're made in China, but they are breaking ground on an American manufacturing plant starting in 2024. So I'm super excited to pump them up.
Awesome.
And eventually have tumblers made in America too. So yeah, right now hats and tumblers and my coffee. I have mugs, ceramic mugs that are made in America here in Washington. I'm gonna get the shirts on there, sweatshirts, beanies. So we're going all out. We're doing a bunch of cool stuff.
Awesome. That sounds great. So, hey, if you want to support law enforcement, you want to support Blue Badge Coffee Company, and for it to go to a good cause, get on there and buy some coffee, right? Buy some merch. Because if you don't love cops and you don't love America, right?
Hey.
And that's what we want, right? We want to support law enforcement. We want to promote law enforcement, and obviously we want to support and promote America, because that's the cool thing to do.
Support law enforcement, support local business, small business, yes, and support America first, and that's what I'm all about for sure.
Awesome. So I've got as we kind of come to a close, I got two more questions. One of them is going to be kind of just a tag in there, but if there's somebody right now who's just dealing with a lot of stuff, and they're kind of at that point where they're done, right? Maybe they're ready to call it. Maybe they're suicidal. What would you say to them?
Call somebody, call a friend, just talk to somebody, because sitting there in your thoughts alone is not the place to be. A lot of people call. A lot of people aren't there, and they're calling because they want the attention or whatever. But there are the people that are actually serious and they're about to do something like that. But you make that one call, and that one call can make a difference in your life. Another thing is, and this is a company that I work with my company. They're a cop in Daly City actually started this company. It's called the Overwatch Collective, and they work with veterans, cops, firefighters, first responders. But they have paid for however many thousands of dollars in therapy sessions for police officers, firefighters, first responders,
That's
out
awesome.
of their company. That's what they do. So it's a great partner of mine. And so there's companies like that though all over the country that are there to help you. And so I just say please reach out, because man, we don't need another lost officer, law enforcement officer, or first responder. It's not a good
Absolutely.
stat.
I mean, there's a lot of people out there that, they're dealing with a lot of things. They're struggling. I think the biggest thing is letting them know they're not alone, right? They're not
Yeah,
alone. Like, you are not alone in this. And there's people that are wanting to help you. There's resources available, and just make use of them.
there is. Like not all
Yeah.
of them have family, like family outside of our departments or our agencies. But we do have family inside our agencies, and you might not think like that, but like there are people that love you inside our agencies, outside our agencies, wherever, our friends. So just please reach out. You're not alone, like I said, for sure.
So reach out. And then lastly, man, before we close, so as you kind of look back at, Blue Badge Coffee Company, your career, and just where you're at right now, how much has your faith played into that?
For sure, a lot. I mean, God has a plan for us, and I'm here for a reason. Like, I've gone through so many ups and downs in my life, whether it be family, work, relationships, whatever it may be, financially. But he put me in those situations because he knew I can get through them, and I have. And I've worked my ass off to do a lot of good things, and I've put a lot of good time into my police department and my community to change. But like, now that I'm here, I went through this program, and I'm here building this company. This is a way for me to make not just a change in my local community here in Pacifica, which I love and I cherish, but when I get this thing going to where I want it to be, I'm going to make a difference in this country for police departments everywhere. And he put me here for a reason. So it's going to happen. It's going to be
awesome.
Good.
Well, Rick, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate what you're doing through Blue Badge Coffee Company. Man, continue pushing forward, continue helping people out. And man, I love what you're doing.
I appreciate you in Critical Aspects and having me on the podcast just to give me a platform. You're doing great things too, and I really, really appreciate it. It was an awesome time.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. We'll talk to you later.
Okay.
Bye.
Have a good one.
See ya.
I appreciate you tuning in and listening to Critical Aspects of Law Enforcement. Remember to subscribe to the podcast and share this resource with your fellow officers. The goal of Critical Aspects is to serve, support, and sustain the law enforcement professionals. So head over to www.criticalaspects.org for more resources and information. And as always, God bless and be safe.